We're back with Kevin Simpson, the mind behind Capital Wealth Management, who's going to discuss the unusual circumstances we're facing today. People trying to invest and retire have a steep hill to climb, don't they?
Yeah, it seems like a daunting proposition when you consider how volatile markets have been and the fact that we have a zero interest rate, basically a zero interest rate economy. It's a challenge. You know, retirement used to be really easy. There was none. You would just sit at your job and eventually you'd die and they'd roll you out of the way. Then retirement, thanks for laughing, Lou. Then retirement started. And it started as a simple concept, and Social Security was built around the idea that you could retire at 65, conveniently die at 72, and have a very modest income for 7 years in retirement. And the system worked. Problem is that if we retire today, we're not conveniently dying at 72. In fact, we're living for 2 or 3 or 4 times that in retirement. Some people are living longer in retirement than they were in their work years. And that's a great thing from a health standpoint and an activity standpoint. But the problem is, who's going to pay for it? It was easier, again, kind of going back to the old days. We look back 25 years ago, a retired couple that had spent their whole lives saving and say that they had amassed a $500,000 nest egg. Well, they could retire comfortably. Right now, less than 10% of Americans participate in a defined benefit plan. Back then, it was a lot different. So you have a husband and wife 25 years ago, they retire. They put $500,000 into a CD, which, by the way, was paying a 7% income stream. They could get a great income, $7,500 a month through the interest on the CD, Social Security, and we'll just pretend one of them had a pension plan. At $7,500 a month 25 years ago, you could think about golf, fishing, vacation with the grandchildren. You fast forward to today in a zero interest rate environment with no one still participating in traditional pension plans. Yeah, there's still a modest Social Security income. Maybe that's $3,250 a month. The CD is not paying 7% anymore. So let's pretend they've worked even harder than the couple 25 years ago. Let's say they invested in this 11-year bull market through 401ks, retirement plans, IRAs, stocks. Let's say that they have $1 million. They're a millionaire. They've amassed $1 million. They're going to retire. They're going to put that in a CD. And let's be generous and say they get 2% a year. The combined monthly income, because there's no pension, it's just Social Security and a 2% income on a CD at $1 million, is $5,550 a month. Almost $2,000 less than 25 years previous, and the cost has gone up. The cost of living has gone up, and we're going to live longer. How do you do it?
How do you do it?
Good question. So I'm going to throw it back from you, take some of the pressure off me. But the truth is, it's hard. What are you going to do? You can work longer. You can take a second job. You can cut down on your expenses. But all of those things are really difficult. So you need to explore other options for income, and other things exist. You don't have to just stop at a 2% CD. There are options out there. You could look at high yield. You could look at REITs. You could look at junk bonds. They're not things that I would necessarily recommend as a first choice, but each one of those has more risk than a CD. So if we're going to take that kind of risk in high yield REITs, junk bonds, preferreds, it may be reasonable to assume that we could look at great high quality blue chip companies as a component of an income portfolio. And if you think about the capital wealth planning strategy, we're not just buying great companies that pay good dividends. We're looking at companies that pay appreciating and growing dividends over time. So if we're lucky enough to not have that 7-year retirement and we can live a little bit longer, if we look at dividend growers as a means of an income portfolio, not a replacement, there's a different risk profile, but looking at dividends as income, in our strategy, we're typically generating between 2.5% and 3% a year, we'll call it, for dividends. Still pretty decent in and of itself. But when you bring the covered calls into the equation, we can generate another 2.5% to 4% a year. So now we've got a great high quality blue chip portfolio with a 5 to 7% targeted cash flow. When we get into that space, we can start to think about retirement. Bottom line is, you have to plan for retirement, you have to plan for a long retirement, and you have to plan for a growing and increasing need for income in retirement. And we think we've got a solution that fits all 3 of those bills.